word. It sort of became old-fashioned. It's called a nationalist. And I say, really, we're not supposed to use that word. You know what I am? I'm a nationalist, okay? I'm a nationalist.
Well, President Trump has defended his use of the term nationalism as an intense love of one's country. But leftist commentators and other internationalists say it's a dog whistle to white supremacists. And now, at an occasion commemorating the 100-year anniversary of the armistice ending World War I, French President Emmanuel Macron has joined the fray.
Patriotism is the exact opposite of nationalism. Nationalism is a betrayal of patriotism by saying, our interests first, who cares about the others?
Well, joining me now, Yoram Hazany. He's the author of the book, The Virtue of Nationalism, and Mark Simakovsky, former NATO Chief of Staff. Yoram, let me start with you. Now, what does Macron get wrong here about nationalism?
Well, Laura, Macron is pursuing the same agenda that he's iterated repeatedly since he was elected president of France a year and a half ago. Just in October at the United Nations, Macron told us he deplores a world that he calls a world of lawlessness in which everyone pursues their own interests. Macron has a problem with the idea of national interest. He says that national interest is national selfishness. And now he's telling President Trump that to be a nationalist and to pursue your own interests is a betrayal of moral values.
All right, Mark, this is what Christian Witten is saying about Macron's commentary. Let's watch.
I think Macron within the EU is under a lot of pressure. Frankly, Germany is willing to cut a deal on the trade changes that Trump wants, to lower tariffs across the board. Macron doesn't like that. He doesn't like the pressure. He doesn't like having to spend more on the military. He doesn't like the fact that Italy is, along with Britain, sort of peeling away from the EU, not quite as directly yet. Right. Eastern Europe, not as kosher on the EU. So a lot of these things just aren't going the way that this former investment banker would like them to go.
Yeah, Mark, if globalism of the sort that Macron loves and internationalism was helping the average, German or Frenchman, there wouldn't be a backlash against internationalism or globalism. There would be, yeah, let's do more of it. But they're under enormous pressure, are they not?
They absolutely are. I think this speech, there's two parts to this speech. One is Macron is encapsulating himself as in opposition to Trump, and he's betting that the French people believe and are supportive of an anti-Trump French
As the
leader.
National Front are pushing back on him right now. Obviously,
absolutely.
They've had gains in recent polls and recent local elections.
And this is risky for Macron because he has European elections coming up next year, which will be the first barometer for his own term. He's trying to put himself in polar opposite to Trump. And, of course, he's isolated because Mrs. Merkel also, his political ambitions are on the decline. But also I think this was a warning. This speech was a warning to those that believe that the nationalism and populism that fueled World War I is on the rise and is a danger to the European continent. I think he was brave in making that statement at the speech.
Yoram, this is what Zainab Salbi said today about what nationalism actually creates. Let's watch.
What led to World War I and World War II is nationalism, basically. Exactly. It is divisions and fighting. European allies have seen the wars, have seen actually the consequences of what nationalism could destroy their own countries. And so when Macron says about collaboration and fighting together for the common good, when he talks about creating a European army, have to watch for these things. And I feel like this is the beginning of the European separation from America.
Agree.
And this is really scary.
This is really scary. Why is it scary for Europe to spend more money on Europe's defense? 100 years after the World War I armistice, why is that calamitous to the internationalists? I'm not following that.
This is the same propaganda that we've been hearing from liberal intellectuals in Europe since right after World War II. They always have the same mantra that nationalism caused the world wars. Now, historically, if you go after World War I and you actually see, you'll see that most people after World War I believed that what caused the First World War to go on for 4.5 years and to lead to 20 million deaths was the life and death struggle between German imperialism trying to break the back of British imperialism in its effort to take over the world. After World War II, you can say the same thing. Adolf Hitler, if he hadn't wanted to take over the world, if he hadn't said in Mein Kampf that his goal was to make Germany the lord of the earth and mistress of the globe, well, he might have been a terrible German leader, but he would not have led to the deaths of 50 or 60 million people. So
all right, Mark,
this claim...
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but Mark, just very quickly respond to that. Nation building, wanting to transpose our view of democracy on other nations. We've lost trillions of dollars, countless lives, damaged lives at home, depleted our military. We weren't pursuing a nationalist agenda in Iraq or Afghanistan or all throughout the Middle East, were we?
No, but I think what Mr. Macron is saying is that Europe has maintained peace when the transatlantic community has been united, has cooperated, when the common elements of common security, which NATO represents, actually supports American interests and supports French, German, UK interests. And there's a risk today that that transatlantic unity is falling apart. And
well, where are they going to go? Into the arms of China? I mean,
no.
Where's Europe going to go?
I think the fear is that Trump is going to take the United States out of the game, and that Russia and China can create conflict like they're creating in eastern Ukraine, that China is creating in the South China Seas,
right,
and the U.S. won't be there to help secure the peace.
All right, gentlemen, fascinating conversation.